And we're off. Happy Monday, Derek. How are you?
Oh, is it Monday? I lose track of the days. Yeah. No, I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm glad I got the day right for a change.
Yeah, no,
Quite often,
I got the day wrong.
quite often, I think
Yeah.
the Wednesday is the Friday, so I'm 2 days ahead of myself, which is soul destroying.
Whereabouts are you?
Sydney
Oh,
yourself.
you're in Sydney. Okay. Whereabouts?
Rouse Hill is where I am.
Okay. I'm on the coast. That's where I live, but I work everywhere. Interstate. Yeah, Sydney, everywhere. Really.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so have we met before, Derek? Should I know you?
I'm a very forgettable person. We met on I think it was the 16th of July. We met on a online networking thing. I think it was a BNI thing, and you were there.
Okay, all right. So I do pop up on the BI every now and again. I've got a few friends that do that and invite me along for support on that. So, mate, kudos to your memory. And whatever.
I had to look it up. I never forget a face. I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
forget a face, and I was like, I know you. And plus the whole purple thing. When you said purple doesn't exist, I saw you mentioning it online, and I was like, oh, I know who you are. Like I've met you before. Purple doesn't exist. You never forget that.
There we are. Good. But that's actually testimony to some of the things we can do in conversation to just plant that seed so people remember you, rightly or wrongly. And even if it's innocuous, it's irrelevant. It means you put that stamp in someone's memory.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So tell us why we should remember you then, Derek.
I'm not sure if you remember me, but you should remember the stories. That's what I got into. So my business is called Your Story. And we try to capture people's stories, all walks of life. It can be for business, but it can also be personal. And we kind of mix it all together and show who you are, the person behind the brand or the service, or if it's just, get to know dad, get to know the brother, the sister, the son. I'm just all about capturing stories.
Good. Well, it looks like we've got some commonality here because that's exactly what we're doing here. And it's nice to pull back behind the surface level, I think, and enable that position for people to self-reflect and come out feeling better for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on a mission to record every person's story to start with in Australia and then the world. I started this project recording people's stories back when I was in the UK, and I was trying to record all the people living rough on the streets because, I mean, it can be horrendous. It's horrendous anywhere, but in the UK it's especially bad because it's so cold there, and they can freeze to death. And so I squatted for a little bit when I was there. I actually lived on the street, so I kind of was empathetic to that. I had a bit more compassion, and I wanted to grab stories from people who are living on the streets before they're forgotten. And the internet lives forever. If you put it online, it's there forever. And I thought, with their permission, I'll explain to them what I'm doing, and I'd like to capture their story. And they absolutely loved it. And actually, a few of my documentaries, they're short documentaries, they ended up being used in schools and outreach organizations, community support organizations. They use it as a case study to show people how it can be and where you can, and it doesn't discriminate. It could be anyone, and people don't seem to understand that. So I just wanted to capture those stories and the how do you end up in that situation, and it could happen to anyone. And hopefully that came across. It seemed to work, so it was good.
I love that, and so I don't want to take anything away from that. I remember as a young man working in a nursing home. It's full of nuns and what have you in Essex, and there's one old guy there. I won't mention his name, albeit this is some time ago anyway, and he had a speech impediment. He couldn't talk. He'd grunt, but he used to play up. He used to have food fights and that. And after a period of time, I spent some time with him, and we could start to understand what he was saying. And it turned out he was the chauffeur for the Beatles his whole career, and he despised them, and he wanted to share the stories. When he shared his stories, he calmed down. Then everybody wanted to speak to him.
Mm.
Okay. Now I know it's not the same as homelessness, but I think as was it 15, 16 years old or whatever it was, it's also taught me, to get the story out of everybody, because we shouldn't be prejudging it. It's not just the high flyers that we should be honing in on with their success stories. It's the people that have gone through life and the trials and tribulations, and there's so much there and good that you can actually do with it.
Absolutely. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be a story about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which we've done. We've recorded those stories, but it's not about that. It's about commonality. It's really showing that we're just all human beings. We're all the same and we're all different, and we're after the same things. And it's really showing that side. When we record family stories, for example, they always say, my story, I don't have those, so my story is not special. And then the second line is, well, when I worked in the prison and we traveled down the river, I'm like, sorry, what? Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, people don't understand. But it's even if you don't have an amazing story, you just lived on your couch your whole life, that's fine too, because people want to see your mannerisms, your family, your friends. They want to remember you exactly how you were, and the way you talk, the certain things you say, certain words you say, the inflection. So yeah, it all helps to bring that compassion and connection with one another.
I love that. We were talking just briefly offline before, not online, but off recording. And I was saying, I want to capture everything. So it's exactly that. There's an element of legacy, and there's just those innocuous comments that can actually impact someone that you don't know in the world somewhere else. And that's where the magic of it is. And I do relate to your story when people say they haven't got a story, because I've had it so many times on here alone, where they said they've got nothing, and then boom, all this comes out, and it's like, and they loved it. They just needed a platform, a time and a place to get it out, and they didn't realize it,
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes like when we're interviewing people, we have like little key questions and just to trigger certain memories. And that's exactly it. We when we send people the questionnaire, sometimes they're like, what did my mom and dad used to cook for dinner? Who cares about that? And then on the day we ask them the question, so do you remember any favorite foods? And they're like, oh yeah, lamb's frying bacon. Yeah, I remember my mom used to do. Oh yeah, my cousins used to come over. Oh, we remember I were playing in the pool with my cousin. Once I fell, and it's a whole story that unravels. And you're like, yeah, they're just all from some potatoes on a plate. And it went to your whole family and how they connect.
Yeah, no, I love that. So tell me, I want to revert back to the homelessness in the UK. All right. You said you were squatting yourself. Was that it would sound bad, but was that by choice or by design to understand the situation there?
It wasn't by choice, no. So I've always had a problem with alcohol and drugs, and I always struggle with that. With my upbringing, I thought I wasn't understood, and partly I wasn't. But yeah, it was always a rough upbringing with my parents and whatnot. And so I turned to alcohol and drugs early age, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I escaped to the UK, luckily, before I ended up in jail or dead. And I wanted to study film, and of course, I became a waiter. And because in Portugal, where I grew up in an island in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there, so I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to go study. I want to do what I love, which is telling stories. Since a young age, I was like 8, 9. I used to get friends together in the middle of class. I'd stop the class and be like, hey, we need to put on a play. And this is maths. What are you talking about? I'm like, come on, it'll be fun. So I turn anecdotes, like, French guy, English guy, Portuguese walk into a bar. I turn a joke into a whole play, and I get everyone involved, and everyone loved it. And so I was writing stories, telling stories, but there was no film school. So I was like, I don't want to stay in Portugal. I can go to mainland, but I can go to New York, but that's, a bit further away. UK, you can travel to other countries. So it's like, I'll go to the UK. So I got there, of course, became a waiter. And eventually got into film school. But before that, I was still a bit aimless, and turned to drugs again. Ended up living on the street for a few months. But I'm one of those people, when I'm lucky that way. I guess my programming kicked in. When I hit rock bottom, I'm like, okay, this is not the place for me. And I turned my life around pretty quickly. Some people say stubborn. I'm confident in that. So if I know where the goal is, I can reach it. Like, I can cross the desert if you tell me it's 1,000 kilometers. But if I don't know where the end is, I won't reach it. So I knew what I wanted. And yeah, I was lucky enough. I turned my life around. And then from that point on, I went back to those places where I squatted, because it was amazing stories there. There were incredible stories there. There was one guy who he did credit card fraud. He would do lists. That's all. It was life. His work was just credit card fraud. He tried different numbers every day until he got the right ones. There was also other drug addicts, alcoholics, like all walks of life. It was nuts. And so I interviewed all of them, and I tried to get the story, their backstory, after I was in film school. So it was cool to go back and revisit that. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got into film. I moved to UK and was lucky enough to get into film school with some help from my sister at the time.
Okay, all right. I do like your story of resilience. For me, rock bottom is a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And sometimes I actually think sometimes people need to fall a little bit out of mediocrity and the comforts, and just have that little shit, just to spring themselves back up again. And to use your term, to not be so aimless, have something to put their teeth into and enable some change.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard when there's no catalyst, because, for example, I was able to kick drugs, and that's like an incredible feat in itself. Most people are not able to do it. But getting rid of chocolate, stop eating chocolate, that is not wild. I can't seem to kick that one. Although I'm doing pretty good. I'm like on my 40th day, but because it's more acceptable, everyone, hey, do you want a candy bar? Do you want a thing? You want a piece of chocolate? It's more acceptable. It's the same with alcohol. I managed to kick off alcohol 8 years ago, which was really cool. I wanted to be an inspiration for my daughter, but also to feel better about myself when I was waking up, not being hungover or whatever it is. You get older, you start feeling it more. So I was able to kick that off as well. But yeah, it's hard when it's a bit more acceptable or there's no catalyst.
And you're right. There's a lot of question marks around what the drugs that we do consume, because they're legal and they're normalized, from your coffee to your sugar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these things that have quite a massive impact to your body. But then people then frown upon other things. It's like, well, essentially they're the same, but it's in business, it's normalized, so it's okay,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When he was drinking, was you and tell me to shut up if I'm intruding. But when you were drinking, was you impulsive drinker, so you just keep going, or would you?
Okay. So if you're talking about a specific day, like if I'd go out and drink, I'd drink until I've been drinking since I was I think 11, and so it was more acceptable out in Portugal, even though 11 is not that. It's a bit young for any country, but it was a bit more acceptable. I'd raid my parents' liquor cabinet. They had 2 of those in their house, and so when I would drink until oblivion. Yeah, it could end. I remember recently listening to Josh Brolin talk about his experience with alcohol and drugs and whatnot. Very similar to mine. It could either go, you're the best person in the world, you're the most fun person, or you are a monster. It would go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Oh, it was not fun. I have some horrific stories, some amazing stories, but some quite horrific stories as well. So you never know where it would go. But before I kicked it, it wasn't really like that. I was just feeling, I would wake up a bit hungover. If I didn't have work, I'd probably drink like a bottle of wine. when I had work, when I had something to do, I wasn't drinking. But when there was no projects on, I'd have 2-3 beers before going to bed and whatnot. And I'd wake up and I wasn't feeling great. And plus putting on weight and all that. I just wasn't. And then my daughter was born. I was still drinking a little bit, and she was not even few months. And I was like, okay, this is, I don't want her, if she can drink when she's older, but I don't want her to get it from me. I don't want her to see, oh, my dad drinks, I can do it as well. I don't want it to be the inspiration for it, if you call it inspiration. And the other thing was feeling better about myself. I was just a better human being. And then right away, I noticed my mind was was much sharper. I noticed a massive improvement in how sharp my memory was compared to what it was before.
I like that. I think talking about, because I used to be a solid drinker myself. And you're quite right. It's a bit Jekyll and Hyde when you hit the bits of less control. But I talk about this fairly regularly, actually. And for me, I still drink. Whiskey is my drink of choice. I'm a bit of a whiskey snob, but I won't drink to get drunk. Okay. And the reason is I still will enjoy and respect that drink I've got there. But there's a tipping point to whether it controls you or you control it. And the same can be said about chocolate, sugar, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. And I think it's just that level of control. If it's always like you've got control of whatever it is, whether the chocolate is the thing and it isn't leading you, then that's healthy. The moment it's determining what you do with your day in the behavior and how you show up, then it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sugar or alcohol or heroin, it's bad,
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people. I'm strong-willed, but I don't think I can try a little bit and just be able to drink a few drinks and stay in control. I enjoy, I drink, I was drinking non-alcoholic beer, and even I noticed I was like, oh, I can't even stop this. I was drinking like 10, whatever. I'm like, this is not a good thing. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Even without the alcohol there, the trigger on the taste, it's that put you into a routine again straight away. So you automatically went into habit mode, and there's no and so you're quite right in that situation. You can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I love the taste though. It's some people drink to get drunk. I like the taste. I have a few whiskey snobs, like you put it. I should introduce you. There's one who does like investing in cask whiskey, like the whole cask, which is interesting. And they do like all these. They get together and do these tastings, all the different whiskeys and ages. It's quite interesting. I like seeing it. And
that is an interest. Well, for people that don't understand that, once you understand the differences, it's quite sophisticated in its little way, and there's a certain level of enjoyment there. Okay, tell me where you said you're from Portugal, but you're from an island.
Yeah. Well, it's an archipelago. I was born in Canada, but I moved when I wasn't even 4. I was 3 and something. I moved to the Azores. So it's a group of islands in the middle of the Atlantic. And I grew up in one of the islands. And it was a great place to grow up, close to nature. I could see the ocean everywhere I looked. It was a great place. And I want to go back regularly because, it's such a beautiful spot. It's very much like Hawaii. If you've ever been to Hawaii, it's like that. They were going to shoot Jurassic Park there. It was between that and Hawaii. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And with the Portuguese that you speak, have you used it much in Brazil?
In where?
You've been to Brazil?
No, I haven't been to Brazil.
So is it on your bucket list or not?
Yeah, I've I mean, the whole Brazil, South America, Central America, it's all very beautiful, but I have 2 little white daughters that are 7 and 8, so I don't know if I can go with my little super white daughters to South America. I would have to stay in the tourist traps because I have friends over there. Like, for example, Mexico, they're like, yeah, beautiful, just stay behind the gates. I'm like, okay, maybe next year. So it's definitely on my bucket list. But on the top of that bucket list, Japan is probably going to be the next one. Japan, because I've flown, stopped, but didn't really go. And Africa, so like as a safari, that's at the very top. That's what I want to do.
So just to put this in context, with your two lovely daughters, you won't go past the gate in Mexico, but you go and face some lions and rhinos at a safari.
Exactly. Man, humans are nuts, man. I'll face an animal anytime. Humans are the ones that are crazy. You have to watch out for the humans, man.
In itself. And listen, I'm enjoying your pictures. I am listening to you, I promise. I'm enjoying these pictures in the background.
Oh yeah, and my daughter's doing some photos that I've taken when I travel around Australia. Yeah, Australia, and most are just my daughter's drawings.
Yeah, good. So they've got a bit of a creative flair in them as well.
Yeah, they seem to have. Yeah, my 8-year-old is very like airy fairy and goes with the wind, and yeah, it's very cool. And my younger one is a bit more she's going to be more like a producer type, but very creative as well. But she knows the beat. She's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Like she comes up with her own lyrics, and she's written a book. She wrote a book when she was 5, like a proper story, not like the dog is pink. It wasn't like, it was like these two dogs went on an adventure, one saved the other. And it was they put it in libraries, and it's very, very cool. She's very gifted with the creativity.
That's awesome. So it's fair to say that they look up to you, and what you do with your day to day has quite a significant impression on them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're influenced by the people around them, right? So if we're always around them, I try to spend as much time as I can with my daughters, and they pick it up. For good and bad, they'll pick up mannerisms and expressions and the way they interact with other people. Of course, they have their own personalities, but it all gets nature and nurture. It all gets jumbled up.
Too true. And listen, I keep trying to read your T-shirt properly. Can you give us a decent?
It says, "What's your story?"
Love it. And that's the name of your business.
Yeah, Your Story. Yeah. I have two. I have Your Story, which focuses on family stories, and I have Abel Productions, which focuses more on founder stories. It's all about people with me. It's all about people. Trust people. Yeah.
Okay. I resonate with practically everything you said, which I can rarely say with every one of these. Okay, it's all right. So somebody wants
what didn't you resonate with?
I know everything. Usually there's. I agree with what most people say, even if we're chalk and cheese. There's always something. There's always a 1 out of 10 which is not on point for me. But in this case, everything you're saying, my story is pretty similar, and I get where you're coming from, what you're doing. So, lots of kudos to yourself. So thanks for that. Before we wrap up then, someone wants to make contact with you about your story. They want to share their story. They want to speak to you about one of your two businesses or any of the above. How should they make contact with you?
Just drop me an email, derek@yourstory.net.au. And Derek is spelled like the right way, DEREK.
Fantastic. I've really enjoyed your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.